away from the bow of the Titanic by a robotic diving vehicle last week, ending a multinational 5-day search for survivors.
Well, good evening. Thanks a lot for staying with us here at CNN News 18. You're watching Nation at 5 with me, Ridhima Bhatnagar, and we're coming to you live from the newsroom of CNN News 18. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be getting you all the top stories. We're beginning this broadcast with some breaking developments coming in and news coming in from cash-ridden Pakistan. This is news related as far as the aviation space is concerned, where we now understanding authorities within Saudi Arabia civil aviation have now given an ultimatum to Pakistan's national airline. The ultimatum says that either you pay the pending dues or there will be no operation of flights, which means even the repatriation flights which was on for the Hajj pilgrims could see an end, which means as many as 50,000 pilgrims that had taken these flights for Hajj could also be left stranded. We're understanding they're dues to the tunes of $48 million, and that's the ultimatum that has been given, that either you clear these dues or there will be no operation of flights as far as Pakistan's national airline is concerned. But this really is not the first time that we're seeing crisis for Pakistan's national airline. You would remember that just about a couple of months ago, they had aircraft that were actually taken back by the lessors in Kuala Lumpur because of these pending dues. Let's also now bring in our colleague Anand, who's joining us also from our newsroom. So Anand, as I said, not really the first time that we're seeing crisis for the Pakistan national airline. There are dues to the tune of $48 million. Leasers have impounded aircraft in the past as well. Let's first begin by understanding, do we have a timeline of how much time does the Pakistan national airline have to pay back these dues?
Well, they are supposed to get the IMF bailout by July.
Yeah.
So we are already on the 29th. So that bailout has not yet come. And they will now get into another debt cycle with them up. So the Saudi is saying that, listen, they have also got $3 billion parked within the Pak bullion. But that money cannot be touched till the Saudis give them the okay. So Pakistan cannot say that I can use this $48 million out of these $3 billion to pay you, because the Saudis will say that this is my money. So you don't touch this money. So they are waiting for the IMF bailout, but it's the bigger embarrassment is that the Hajj pilgrims are not going to get
and there are 50,000 of them.
Yeah, and they will also not get to come back.
Yeah.
So till these GSCA payments are made. So this is a huge embarrassment which is mounting, and increasingly telling Pakistan that they have to change the way they are functioning.
Yeah.
And nations around the entire OIC also very clearly coming out and saying we are not going to pay you any money. Is Turkey going to give them $50 million to pay Saudis?
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
So they have to generate this money, or they have to seek an extension from the Saudis, and that will come at a particular cost.
Yeah.
And those terms will be set.
Yeah. So what are the options, Anand? As I said, crisis is not new for the airline. In the past, there are at least 2 examples that we've seen where leasers have come and said, we're taking our aircraft back, either you clear your dues. It happened recently in Kuala Lumpur. It's currently happening with the leaser in United States as well. So what are the options then?
The Pak military budget will have to be cut. The Pak military budget has got the biggest bulk of the money. So the Pak military has to now say, listen, you take the $48 million from us, or the government has to tell them, listen, we'll give this money back when we get the IMF bailout. But right now, please give us money from your funds so that we can pay off these bills. Because then the government, that's the only option that Shehbaz Sharif has. Because then the military has the biggest allocation of the budgets. Even the health budgets are not so big. The education budgets are not so big as much as the budgets that are being allocated. Or the other thing is that the Pak government employees don't get their salaries. And you take the money out from there and then pay so that the Hajj pilgrims can go. This is a call that Shehbaz Sharif has to pick up the phone and dial Asim Munir. That's the only option, and say, listen, you please release some money from your budgets. Because or they will have to go back and into the parallel economy. So they'll have to look from the cash mafia, the drugs, and somewhere raise the money from there to pay the Saudis. But then they will have to then roll it out and then park this money with the Saudis. The other option is that Shehbaz Sharif has to ask the Saudis for an extension and say, please give me till the 15th of July and hope that the IMF bailout comes till then.
Yeah, which is also interesting is that this is coming at a time when you have pending dues, but ironically you have a very aggressive expansion plan as far as the Pakistan National Airline is also concerned. They're saying we want to expand in terms of our fleet in aircraft, but nobody is asking where the money is going to come from.
What the Pakistanis think is that they will go and promise to buy aircraft and then they'll give them the aircraft, then they'll say that we will run the aircraft and then we'll pay you back. Now, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So this is why the astuteness of Mian Nawaz Sharif back in 2015, when he tried to sign the UFA Pact and agreed and said, let's trade with India and work with India as a trade and dial down the animosity, dial down the terror network and all of that, that fell flat because he lost power. Now, he's the one who's got to come back. Or Nawaz Sharif now has to reach out. And the only person who can weigh in is Nawaz Sharif right now, sitting in London. He will have to reach out to the Saudi king. He will have to reach out to the UAE and say, okay, give me a 2-3 month extension. Hold on to the interest payments and hold on to this payment. I'll try and sort things out in the near future. That's the only option. Otherwise, it's huge embarrassment that Hajj, which is the biggest aspect, and you're saying Hajj pilgrims are going to be left stranded. That's really embarrassing for them. More than the payments dues, it's the timing of these this one which is huge embarrassment for Shehbaz Sharif and his government.
True. Anand, we leave the conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We also have Foreign Affairs expert Rubinder Sachdev also now joining us on the broadcast. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on CNN News 18. How do you see the news that's coming in from Pakistan? Your economic crisis is not new, but now there is an ultimatum that's been given by authorities in Saudi Arabia, by the civil aviation authorities, that either you pay the dues or there will be no operation of flights. It's not just no operation of flights, it means that 50,000 Hajj pilgrims could be stranded.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be with you and an honor. See, what is happening, if I could take some bullet points. Pakistan has to pay back around $20 billion in the next 1.5 years, right? It doesn't have any money, one. Secondly, Pakistan has been putting on collateral its airports, its motorways, toll roads, the buildings of its Pakistan television radio. You know, Pakistan TV radio, about 60 odd buildings across Pakistan, land and building, one can imagine, right? They have been put in collateral. So bottom line, what is happening is that Pakistan has to pay back the debt with the interest to all those who are there. IMF is setting certain terms which Pakistan is not able to agree. Not only not wanting to agree, but they cannot just agree. Like IMF is saying, cut down your defense budget. Bring your 4G foundation, which is a private, this is tax exempt. Bring them in under the tax of their car. Now, Pakistan is unable to do that. In that case, the IMF money has also not been released. Now, I'll come to the Saudi thing in a second. Plus, IMF tells Pakistan that you owe us money, but you owe some big money to China, UAE and Saudi. Come to them on a company what kind of delay package will work out for your loans. Unless they all agree to a certain term with you, we cannot release the money because we don't know, what's the game plan ahead. Now, Pakistan has also not been able to agree with China, UAE and Saudi how to pay them back. Now comes this last point. Now what the Arab countries like Saudi and UAE have decided, they have set a picture that, you know what, give us your assets. The Dubai ports is in a discussion with the Pakistan government. Both states, east, west, or maybe one of them will be given to Dubai port. That is, Dubai port will buy.
So we seem to be losing your audio. We'll just try and re-establish that connection. But we also have senior fellow ORF, Sushant Sareen, also now joining us on the broadcast. Sushant, good to have you with us here on CNN News 18. Economic crisis only escalating as far as Pakistan is concerned. The debt also now increasing. More debt now coming in as far as the aviation space is concerned. There is an ultimatum that has been given that there will be no flight operations if this $48 million is not paid back. Who's going to be the collateral damage? 50,000 Hajj pilgrims. How do you see these developments?
I think ultimately they'll sort this thing out because apparently the Saudis have promised them a lot of money and some of these monies will be deducted, which the Saudis will deposit to what the Pakistanis owe the Saudi Aviation Authority. But this is an old-standing problem, not just with Saudi Arabia, but also with many other airlines. Most foreign airlines have in any case stopped flying to Pakistan. There's not enough custom, and then the problem is that the Pakistanis are not paying their dues. So most foreign airlines in any case have stopped flying to Pakistan. Pakistani airlines can't fly to most places in the world, especially in Europe and America, because of bad service conditions, poor maintenance of aircraft, and because they have absolutely no money to fix their airline or their services or the safety of the airline. So there is that attendant problem. Now with the Saudis turning the screws on the Pakistanis, then of course it becomes even, of course the immediate crisis is that there are the Hajj pilgrims. In fact this time the Pakistanis have not even been able to fulfill their entire quota of the Hajj pilgrimage.
True.
Because there is no money to give. So I think you're right. I think basic analysis of yours is absolutely on the mark. That the economic problems have reached a point where literally they are scraping the barrel, and there is no relief coming towards Pakistan from any quarter.
Yeah, but Sushant, the problem is that these economic troubles are not new for Pakistan. The bailout hasn't come from IMF. Tough conditions have been given. This seems like there is no alternate plan as well. As I was discussing with Anand also a short while ago, even as if you look as far as the national airline of Pakistan is concerned, they have almost $48 million that are dues that are left with Saudi authorities. On the other hand, they're saying we have a very aggressive expansion plan. We want to buy the aircraft. It also looks like all of this is kite flying, without trying to understand where the money is going to come from.
You used a very polite word, kite flying. I would have used something more nasty. But yeah, clearly I think, they're just trying to talk up the markets, trying to infuse some confidence in the market with this empty talk. Because the bottom line is there is nobody coming into Pakistan to invest. There is nobody, the Pakistanis have no money of their own, which they can plow in and rescue their markets. And frankly, when you say that economic crisis is nothing new, yes, economic crisis is not new for Pakistan, but the scale of the crisis this time, the depth of the crisis, and the expanse of the crisis this time, I think is probably the most serious economic challenge Pakistan has faced in its history. And you're right, that they have absolutely no idea, none whatsoever, on how to get around it. So if you look at the budget, you look at the kind of stuff most Pakistani policymakers are saying publicly, it's very clear they've run out of ideas. They're just tinkering around, trying to do more of the same, trying to do more of the same better, but no idea on how to fix the fundamental problems that exist in the Pakistani markets, in the Pakistani economy, in the structure of the Pakistani economy. And that is where the nub of the problem lies. And that is also the reason why the rest of the world does not have any confidence that the Pakistanis will be able to come out of this mess in which they are right now.
Yeah. So, Sean, two things that I want to understand. One, of course, how hopeful do you think the Pakistani authorities today can be that possibly they'll get an extension as far as Saudi is concerned? They'll say that, okay, maybe you paid in tranches or something like that. And the other is as far as the IMF bailout is concerned. Pakistan, time and again, has pinned all its hope on the bailout. But even IMF has put very stringent conditions as far as the bailout is concerned. They want no more dilly-dallying as far as this bailout is concerned. So what do you think are the options, if any, as far as Pakistan is concerned?
Look, it's only a series of bad options which stare Pakistan in the face. So as far as the IMF is concerned, the old structural program, which was the EFF, that is clearly not happening. So that's out. Okay. What the IMF has done is that they've said that, look, whatever was the balance of that EFF, we will go into a new standby arrangement with you, but for a short-term period. Now, this will tide them over for another maybe 6 months or thereabouts. But the kind of commitments and the kind of obligations which the Pakistanis have to the international debt market far outweigh whatever the IMF is going to give to them. Now, either the Pakistanis go in for yet another program, but even the standby program is coming under some very stiff conditionalities. They've already raised the interest rate. So what is at about 6.5% in India. The basic policy rate is up 22% in Pakistan. It could go up a couple of notches more because inflation is over 30% in Pakistan. They are asking the Pakistanis to raise electricity tariffs. Already the base tariffs, if I'm not mistaken, are about 20-24 rupees. They could go up to about 30 rupees a single unit. That's the base tariff. When you add all the other surcharges on it, electricity tariffs could be 60 to 70 rupees per unit. So, who can afford? I can't afford 60 rupees a unit, 50 rupees a unit electricity. How do you expect the Pakistanis to be able to do it?
So time is running out. We really have to see what are the kind of options that are left with Pakistan. So unfortunately, I will have to leave that conversation there. Would like to thank Rubinder Sachdev as well. Let's shift our focus to the other big story that we're tracking this evening. And this is the comment that has come from the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, who's minced no words when talking about the Khalistani problem as far as Canada's response is concerned. The External Affairs Minister, as I said, mincing no words, has said that the response of Canada on separatists and separatist group has been constrained because of vote bank politics. As we pointed out, this is not the first time that we're hearing India take a stand as far as the crisis of Khalistani separatists in Canada is concerned. The External Affairs Minister has also said that yes, because of this constrained response, relations have also been impacted between both the countries. Let's listen in to what the External Affairs Minister had to say.
How Canada has dealt with the Khalistani issue has been a long-standing concern, because very frankly, they seem to be driven by vote bank politics. And their responses have all been, to the best of my understanding, actually constrained by what they regard as vote bank compulsions on them. We made it very clear, and I've done so sometimes even in public, which is that, if there are activities which are permitted from Canada, which impinge on our sovereignty, territorial integrity, on our security, then, we will have to respond. So it is something which is I would say, a continuing conversation with Canada, not always a satisfactory conversation, but it is something on which we have been very, very clear.
Some breaking developments now coming in, and this is a CNN News 18 exclusive courtesy our investigations editor Manoj Gupta. CNN News 18 will now decode for you as to why Canada is having a restrained approach or response as far as the Khalistani issue is concerned. We're now understanding, and this is what we heard from the External Affairs Minister as well, that this could be because of compulsions as far as vote bank politics is concerned. We're also now understanding top intelligence sources telling us here at CNN News 18 that Canada is trying to please domestic constituency as well. Our colleague Anand is now back with us in the newsroom. So Anand, we heard the External Affairs Minister speak, mincing no words. He said relations have been impacted between both the countries because the response has been constrained. It's possibly due to vote bank compulsions. What are sources telling you? Why is the response being so guarded from Canada?
Well, Canada is actually saying that India's interference in Canada's affairs is the most. That's what they have tried to say. This was the response of Subramaniam Jaishankar to that comment itself. The reality is the number of letter rogatories or LRs and the number of extradition requests that we've sent across to them, it's a huge file. And Canada has been sitting on it for a while. Let me take a few names.
Sure.
There is Goldie Brar. There is Lakhwinder Singh Sandhu or Landa. There is Hardeep Nijjar, who was gunned down by assailants. There are other Khalistani people involved with the likes of Babar Khalsa International and Khalistan Tiger Force, like Arshdeep Dalla.
Sure.
Arsh Dalla. They are all present in Canada. What they are doing is they are actually co-opting these young kids or youngsters who are migrating from Punjab into Canada. And this entire generation born after 1984, born in the 90s, are being given a particular a skewed narrative about Bhindranwale, skewed narrative about what happened back then, this entire Khalistan or K movement. And a lot of them are going there and not finding employment. They are being co-opted by these gangsters into their gangs. They are being pushed into the drug trade. They are being pushed into the arms trade. They are being asked to do these odd jobs. Plus, they are also part of this entire 40% of the entire logistics business in Canada has been now controlled by the Sikhs. I'm not saying all Sikhs are part of this K
Sure.
group, but
Yeah.
these K groups have infiltrated there. A lot of the K sympathizers also are now in Canadian politics. So they have become a strong vote bank, and they have tried to corrupt the entire narrative altogether. So much so that they are doing a lot to harm the Sikh community and their own stature.
Yeah.
A lot of them some of them are also going there and saying that we are all doing humanitarian aid and humanitarian work, but going down and ground and softly peddling this entire K narrative. Nobody understands the K narrative clearly. It is clearly a secessionist movement. That's why India is concerned.
Yeah.
It is trying to say that we want to carve out a separate state out of Haryana, Himachal, Punjab, Indian part of Punjab. But it does not talk about all the Punjab that Pakistan is squatting on. All the major religious places, Nankana Sahib, Kartarpur Sahib, they're all over in Pakistan.
Yeah.
The Pakistanis are nowhere part of this separate Sikh state at all.
True.
So clearly it's a political narrative. It's being pushed by the ISI. But these people have been entities who've run away, who've been there for a while, and who are operating from there.
Yeah.
Goldie Brar's concern is a larger one also, because Goldie Brar is closely associated with Lakhvir Sandhu, with Babar Khalsa International, but he's also a gangster who's running these gang operations with Lawrence Bishnoi. The NIA charge sheet just says they had nearly 700 shooters under their. So they are doing the same thing, the same modus operandi what they are trying to do in Canada. They have done here also, where they've looked at teenagers and in people in their early 20s. They have co-opted them, given them quick money, given them a gun, a false sense of bravado, and got them hooked to drugs. And run these operations. This is where the issue is. And because they have become a big vote bank there, and you have some politicians who are actually backing Justin Trudeau, so that's why they said local geopolitical compulsions is forcing Canada to ignore a larger concern that directly attacks the sovereignty of Bharat.
Yeah, and that impacts the relations between both the countries as well. Anand, we'll have to leave that conversation there. We also have activist Puneet Sahani now joining us on the broadcast. Puneet, good to have you with us here on CNN News 18, and thank you for patiently waiting. How do you see, the response that is coming from the External Affairs Minister? He's minced no words. He said that yes, relations between both the countries have been impacted, and that has been impacted because of a restrained or guarded response that we've seen from Canada.
Great. Jai Ma Bharati Ruchika. Thank you for inviting me. So, sorry, there is an echo coming, but I'll come to your point.
We'll just try and fix that.
I appreciate Dr. Jaishankar's statement. And, you know, the thing is, but I would have liked him to be a bit more specific. To give you an example. So, for example, the greatest atrocity, terrorist atrocity in Canada was this, you know, like plane bombing, which happened just a few days ago. There was the anniversary of it, right? The anniversary was a few days ago. All these politicians, they have given a statement that this was a national calamity, a natural calamity, that this has happened and this should not happen. But who has done it? Nobody even had the courage to say that the Khalistani terrorists have done it. So these Khalistanis are not just vote bank. I think they're more a pressure group than a vote bank. But this is what has happened. So, you know, when they took out this parade of Mrs. Gandhi, you know, like being shot by a Sikh bodyguards.
In Brampton,
you see, right. So, again, you know, and we raised a noise and, you know, it became a news. But the only, like the politician, his name is Pierre Poilievre, the national politician who condemned it. He didn't condemn it on Twitter. He went secretly and went on his website and wrote it. So he has done his job, but he didn't want to get, you know, this Khalistani blowback. Then I had to take a screenshot of his website and put it on the Twitter that he has done it. So this is what they are playing with the lives of Canadian citizens.
You've been tracking these developments very, very closely over a long period of time. As you rightly pointed out, we've seen a sudden increase as far as these episodes are concerned. What we saw in Brampton, where the tableau of the assassination of Indira Gandhi was carried out, various consulates have come under attack, temple attacks have also increased. Are we suddenly seeing an increase as far as these episodes are concerned?
No, Ruchika, I give you a very cogent example and you will understand what is happening. And I even sent this screenshot to your producer, if, you know, you can put it. So just few days ago, you know, there was a Hindu kid, you know, young kid, he's a bartender, he's not political. And I found through a friend of a friend that he's completely, he just said this Khalistanis had blocked the road. And he said, you know, like, if they want to make Khalistan, they should go to India, or like, are they want to make Khalistan here? He has said nothing. And this some Khalistani loon, you know, she took out, this is his name, he works here, let's destroy him. And that guy is completely traumatized and nobody came to his defense except, you know, I made some noise on Twitter. But that guy, you know, they put his picture, they put his name, they put his job. And trust me, they would have destroyed even the business, but the business was owned by a Sikh. So they were like, let's get this guy fired, but please don't write bad reviews. So this is what they do to an average, Indian or something. And this is the bullying they do. And I think it is a big shame. I think the Indian consulate should have come out. Like, this is the harassment that is happening. But no politician, whether from India or from Canada, spoke in his defense. So this is how they terrorize everybody into submission.
When the External Affairs Minister says that relations have been impacted between both the countries, we feel the guarded response by Canada is because of vote bank politics. How do you see that comment? Do you think there is a compulsion as far as vote bank politics is concerned, and that is why we're not seeing the Canadian authorities be more stringent?
No, Ridhima, like he has said, impacted. I want to see the outcome. So, like in international, everybody knows, you don't even name the terrorists who have done it. So what are you doing? We share high commissioner level relations with Canada, which is the highest. I think we should degrade it to charge the affairs level. I actually want to see action, not statement that they have been impacted. I want the diplomatic relations to be degraded by this country, which is doing, what Pakistan was doing with America. They have become basically, you do terror incidents from here, and you use this state and the state to inflict terror on India. And this is what Captain Amrinder Singh has said, I don't know how many years ago, that Canada should be put charged for terrorism, abetting terrorism.
So considering the fact that India is now not mincing words and also saying that we do know there is a restrained response coming in from Canada and relations are being impacted, will we actually see Canada take some more stringent action? Puneet, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Thanks a lot for joining us here on CNN News 18. Time for us to slip into a very short break. We're coming back with lots more.
I have CNN News 18 Siddhant Mishra with me on the phone line. Siddhant, could you please tell us all the specific concerns that External Affairs Minister raised during that speech that he gave about relationship with Canada? Also, why did he say that, the relationship between Canada and India has been affected in the last 2 years?
Well, this is for the second time, perhaps, that External Affairs Minister is speaking so openly and speaking perhaps his heart out when it comes to relations with Canada. Because what Canada has been doing or perhaps has been involved in is something shocking, and also the way they are protecting or perhaps endorsing the separatist group is also against the integrity and security of India, and that has been retweeted by External Affairs Minister. Now look, Justin Trudeau's government is in minority. He doesn't have enough number to be in power. So he has done a coalition with NDP. Now NDP is being headed by Jalmeet Singh, who is a Khalistani sympathizer, separatist sympathizer. And because of this coalition politics compulsion, Justin Trudeau and his government is unable to take strict or perhaps strong action against these groups, even if they are violating laws, even if they are perhaps protesting in a violent manner outside Indian Foreign Office. Indian High Commissioner's dinner had to be cancelled in the month of March because of the protests of the Khalistanis. In fact, they had beaten up some Indians badly outside the venue, and that venue was booked by Indian community. So, case after case, incident after incident, there has been no response from the authorities in Canada, perhaps with regard to arresting these perpetrators or putting them behind the bars or taking action against them so that their morale breaks down. Nothing has been done. Last time around, when former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's tableau, that particular killing movement tableau was depicted in one of the Khalistani rallies, at that point in time, there was a condemnation which only came from Canadian High Commissioner to India's office. None of the senior ministers there in Canada had condemned it. Nobody from the government spoke about it. Only the High Commissioner to India had tweeted or perhaps has said that we condemn it, it could not be allowed on the Canadian soil. So it clearly establishes the state's policy. It clearly establishes that the separatist group, those who talk about breaking India, those who talk about, those who conspire against India, are hand in glove with the government of Canada. And that is only because of the vote bank politics, because Mr. Trudeau knows that he cannot run his government without the support of NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. He cannot run the government because of the support of these radical elements, those who vote him to power. And this is the reason that Canada has given them a free hand to do whatever they want to do. And in fact, I'm talking about the elements, those who protest against India. There are a lot of elements, those who do violent activities in India, or perhaps have been involved in criminal activities in India, are also sitting comfortably in Canada and perhaps threatening people back in India and getting people killed or executing the killings. So a lot is happening when it comes to Canada, and this is a reason that a second time in a month, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has spoken so openly against the Canada, and he also said that the relations between the two countries have taken a hit because of perhaps the requirement of the vote bank politics, which Canadian government believes in.
Abhishek, since External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar mentioned that security and integrity that we are ensuring to safeguard, now what steps are supposed to be taken from India's side, to sort of make sure that these relationships are being maintained, at the same time the major concern is being sorted out?
See, as the Western Affairs Jaishankar has clearly mentioned that the bilateral ties have been impacted and affected in the last few years because of this Khalistani movement. But since there is a very broad presence of Indian diaspora in Canada that doesn't only belong to, the Sikh community or the communities that kind of are sympathetic towards this Khalistani separatism. So clearly there is a linkages that India and Canada both like to maintain. There's a higher number of students who go to Canada for studies. We have seen recently some controversy around that also. But apart from that, there are certain, defense deals also. Canada is a very natural resource rich country, so Indian investment is also eyeing in that country. So there is a very good potential between the two sides, but and both the sides have tried to escalate the bilateral relationship in terms of volume also. But in the recent years, especially in the last 5-6 years, we have seen increasing events that surrounding this Sikh separatism, and that happening that event is not that big an issue. The kind of actions that Canadian government has taken, that is concerning. They are very lax, and many times it seems that because of the vote bank politics, the Canadian government is not very keen on going after these separatist elements, and one after another, these separatist elements have tried to target Indian communities, the establishments. Indian temples have been defaced in the past. So unless until that is sorted, how can Indian government have a very good and healthy bilateral ties that encompasses in other areas of trade and strategic ties? This is something that External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has highlighted yesterday, and Canadian government needs to take some concrete action that is seen. Every time just defending that we are letting them have a democratic space, that would not solve the problem of Khalistani issue in Canada. This is what India has maintained.
I have Major General A.K. Sivaj, who is a defense expert, joining me on the phone line. Sir, a very good morning to you. As I asked my colleague as well, sir, what do you think, what diplomatic efforts should be at the place to, sort of maintain a mutual understanding between these two nations?
The point is, as far as Canada is concerned, they must realize it that if they want to have a good relation with India, then they cannot allow Khalistan activities to take place in Canada. Because today, Canada has become a hub center of a number of Khalistan activities and anti-India sentiments being shown there. So India is very clear. That's what Dr. Jaishankar has told in no uncertain terms. In case you want a free trade agreement, you want to do a business with India, you can't allow anti-Indian sentiments to be risen there and our temples vandalized or in Khalistan activities going at rampage. So I suppose a strong message is being sent to Canada that you can't have a vote bank politics for your own good if you allow all these activities which are against the interest of India. We are not going to remain quiet. and it will impact our bilateral relation.
Welcome back. Thanks a lot for staying with us. We're getting some breaking developments now coming in, and this is as far as the drone deal controversy is concerned. Government sources now telling us here at CNN News 18 that there is no finalization as far as the drone deal controversy is concerned, not even the prices. Government sources also telling us here at CNN News 18 that we're getting these drones at a cheap price, but with the latest technology. Our colleague Ankur now joining us on the broadcast. Ankur, what are the kind of details that you're picking up as to where the finalization currently stands?
Yes, so there are multiple stages. There are approximately a dozen of stages. So India is at the stage number 3, which is acceptance of necessity, which is AON. And after that, there will be technical evaluation committee. The committee will submit the report on which verifies the technical conformity of various letters and requirements given by the India. And after that, the negotiations will be done. That will be done by a Joint Secretary level officer. And finally, the complete proposal will be moved to Cabinet Committee on Security for the approval. And as per the political will, that will take time. So finally, after getting the complete approval, signing of the document, the contract will be done and delivery will start. So it will take approximately 3 years, 3 to 4. But India, the government sources are claiming that we are at very early stage. It is that no price has been decided so far, and obviously it will take much time. The government will also for assembly in India, so will come down drastically. So there are multiple ways. But whatever prices which are in public domain that are just suggested.
Okay, Ankur, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. Shifting our focus to the other big political story that we're tracking at this hour, which is that Rahul Gandhi arrived in Manipur for a 2-day visit, but that resulted into a fresh new controversy. The Congress earlier in the day claimed that Rahul Gandhi's convoy in fact had been blocked. The BJP then hit back saying that he'd been given a chopper. Why did he even want to go by road? The Congress saying that the BJP just doesn't want the Congress leader to meet the people who've been impacted. What really is happening on the ground? Before we get in our colleagues, let's take a look at some reactions.
Rahul Gandhi was travelling to Manipur today. It's a 2-day visit. But today he has been stopped by the police at Bishnupur. How do you see this?
See, I am in Kerala. I have not been keeping track of what is happening in Manipur. I didn't know that where all Rahul Gandhi is travelling. He travels to many places every day. I don't know what exactly is the issue.
Congress is saying that Prime Minister is not even speaking on Manipur, but when Rahul Gandhi tried to visit the families, the people who are affected, they're even trying to stop it.
No, people are, they have met, the Prime Minister, the Home Minister has convened the meeting not without the permission and approval of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister has authorized the Home Minister. That is why the Prime Minister has invited the all parties. There was an all-party meeting in Delhi, where everyone had the freedom to express whatever they knew, and their views were taken, and the Home Minister has assured that all these views will be considered while taking any decision.
यहाँ के पब्लिक चाह रही है कि राहुल जी आगे बढ़ कर के सबसे मिल लें। मोरंग में जो है बहुत सारे लोग हैं वहाँ पर, चुरुचांदपुर में बहुत सारे हिंसा हुए हैं, और यहाँ की सरकार चाह नहीं रही कि राहुल जी सबसे मिले। अब अभी विधि व्यवस्था का प्रॉब्लम उन्होंने उत्पन्न कर दिया, अभी टेयर गैस चलाया था, स्थिति अच्छी नहीं है। लेकिन ये आपने देखा, देश को जानना चाहिए कि क्या स्थिति है, कि क्या सामान्य स्थिति है, कि अभी गोलियाँ ये टीयर गैस शेल्स चल रहे हैं, पब्लिक विरोध कर रही है।
राहुल गांधी जी वहां पर प्रेम का संदेश देने जा रहे हैं। राहुल गांधी जी वहां पर लोगों से मिलने जा रहे हैं। राहुल गांधी जी वहां पर लोगों को ढांढस बंधाने जा रहे हैं, और जिस नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान खोलने की उन्हें ठानी है, उसको आगे बढ़ाने के लिए जा रहे हैं। इसमें किसी को क्या आपत्ति हो सकती है? राहुल जी मणिपुर पहुंचते हैं, इंफाल के एयरपोर्ट से निकलते हैं, महज 20 किलोमीटर दूर उनका काफिला चलता है और बिष्णुपुर में उसको रोक लिया जाता है। ये मणिपुर के लोग हमारे देश का हिस्सा हैं, ये हमारे भाई बहन हैं, जिनसे इस देश का एक बेटा उनकी खैर खबर लेने जा रहा है, उनको प्यार जताने जा रहा है।
Sensitivity is far more important than stubbornness. जब सिचुएशन इस प्रकार की हो तो हृदय में सेंसिटिविटी होनी चाहिए, जागरूकता होना चाहिए, जिद और स्टबर्ननेस नहीं होनी चाहिए। वी आर अ डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री, हम एक लोकतंत्र हैं। स्वाभाविक रूप से राहुल गांधी मणिपुर जाना चाहते थे, गए मणिपुर, किसी ने रोका भी नहीं उन्हें। मगर मणिपुर की जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है उन्होंने एक रिक्वेस्ट किया। उन्होंने रिक्वेस्ट किया कि विगत 2-3 दिन से जब से राहुल गांधी जी का मणिपुर आने का खबर मणिपुर के लोकल न्यूज चैनल्स में चल रहे हैं, अखबारों में छप रहे हैं, राहुल गांधी जी के विजिट को लेकर काफी प्रोटेस्ट मणिपुर में हो रहे हैं।
Let's also now bring in our colleague and senior editor Pallavi Ghosh, who's joining us on the broadcast. So Pallavi, the question that is being raised by the BJP is that when an arrangement of a chopper was done, why did Rahul Gandhi have to go by road? So what is the Congress saying? Did the Congress leader have permission to travel by road?
See, the Congress's claim is that in cases like an SPG or a Z+ security protectee, the state administration is always kept in the loop about the VVIP presence or a visit like Rahul Gandhi. So it's not that the state administration did not know that excuse is something which is not yet accepted by the Congress party. So according to the Congress party, this was something which was deliberately done. He had landed in Imphal and he had got the prior permission. But the moment he landed there, he was asked to travel by a chopper. The Congress clearly is accusing the BJP of once again interfering with his politics. And remember, during the Bharat Jodo Yatra all along, he has been making the point that whenever I have tried to reach out to the people, it's the BJP which misuses the state administration and tries and ensure I'm not able to go up and meet up with the people. There's always going to be a war of words over this. There are always going to be two sides to the entire story. And clearly, the tug of war over Rahul Gandhi's visit to Manipur is not over.
Pallavi, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We have to quickly shift our focus to some other breaking developments now coming in. And this is as far as the crackdown on terror by the Gujarat ATS is concerned, where we're now understanding they once again busted a nationwide network as far as ISKP terrorists are concerned. Some people have been detained from Hyderabad as well. So the crackdown on terror by the Gujarat ATS still continues. This is the big update that's coming in. As I pointed out, one person has been detained from Hyderabad as well. This is a woman that we're talking about. The woman is believed to be highly radicalized and was in touch with the captured terrorists. We try and establish a connection with our colleague, but the crackdown on terror by the Gujarat ATS still continues. They've now busted a nationwide network as far as the ISKP terrorists are concerned, which has also resulted in some people being detained. There is one woman that has been detained from Hyderabad who's believed to have been in touch with terrorists. We'll try and get more details as far as this crackdown by the Gujarat ATS is concerned and how many more people possibly have been detained or are being questioned. Let's also now bring in our colleague Janak Dave, who is joining us on the broadcast. Janak, first help us understand as far as this crackdown is concerned and the people who've been detained.
देखिए, खादीजा नाम की एक जो महिला है संदिग्ध, उसको गुजरात एटीएस ने हिरासत में लिया है। वो हैदराबाद से है। दरअसल इसके पहले आपको याद हो कि 9 तारीख को एक आईएसकेपी का बड़ा मॉड्यूल गुजरात एटीएस ने बस्ट किया था, जिसमें सुमेरा नाम की एक सूरत से आतंकी थी और उसके अलावा 4 जम्मू कश्मीर से लोग थे। इनके कॉन्टैक्ट्स में ये लड़की यानी कि खादीजा जो लड़की है, जो 20 साल की उम्र की है और वो हैदराबाद से लगातार सुमेरा से कांटेक्ट में थी और सुमेरा की जब सीडीआर निकाली गई तो उसमें खादीजा के संपर्क निकले और खादीजा भी बहुत रेडिकलाइज हो चुकी है और उसके साथ भी आगे का जो ग्रुप है उसके साथ वो संपर्क में रही थी। तो गुजरात एटीएस ने फिलहाल अभी 3 लोगों को पिकअप किया है, जिसमें खादीजा है जो हैदराबाद से, उसके साथ हजीउल्लाह करके हैं जो मेडिकल स्टोर चलाता है और उसके साथ साथ गोरखपुर से अतीक नाम के एक व्यक्ति को यहाँ पे गुजरात एटीएस से पिकअप किया है। तो तीनों का अभी इंट्रोगेशन चल रहा है इस मामले में, तो और नए मॉड्यूल इसमें खुलकर सामने आएंगे। अब तक केवल गुजरात एक मॉड्यूल था, लेकिन अब तेलंगाना और उत्तर प्रदेश भी इसके साथ कनेक्टेड दिख रहा है।
Janak, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. Shifting our focus, some other breaking developments also now coming in. And this is news coming in from Telangana, where top sources are telling us here at CNN News 18 that there could be a shake-up as far as the leadership within the BJP in Telangana is concerned. Sources also indicating to us here at CNN News 18 that there could be changes as far as the top leadership and even the president as far as the party in the state of Telangana is concerned. Sources also indicating that this decision could come very, very soon. We'll try and get more details of why the BJP feels there is a need as far as a leadership change in Telangana. Our colleague Payal Mehta now joining us on the broadcast. Payal, what are sources telling you? Why is the BJP feeling that a change of leadership is the need of the hour in Telangana?
You know, the murmur has been going on for quite some time, Ridhima, but given the fact that this has been an issue which has gone out of control of sorts is what leaders have been able to tell us, and that's one of the reasons that before further damage is done, the party has decided that they will go ahead with a rejig. Now, how that happens and when that happens is entirely the call of the top leadership as well. But if you remember, then over the last couple of days and over the last few days, there have been meetings that have been held with the BJP leadership, you know, whether it is the Etala Rajendran combined or also with Bandi Sanjay, who is the sitting president as well. What we're given to understand by our sources in the top leadership is that there is an issue as far as communication and coordination is concerned, you know, in terms of the Telangana BJP unit. Now, Bandi Sanjay is known to be somebody who is very fiery, he's a street fighter as well. But is he able to keep everybody in tandem, which is very, very critical as far as the upcoming elections is concerned? Many in the Telangana BJP unit will tell you that that is something which Bandi has not really been able to do, and that's probably one of the reasons that many leaders, including those, you know, those people who had migrated from BRS and the other parties, including senior leaders like Etala Rajendran, have been feeling a little suffocated, and they've made no forms about it. They've come to the central leadership and expressed themselves. So that's the reason, keeping the interests of the party in mind, we are given to understand that, you know, probably there could be some sort of a rejig or change in the leadership in Telangana.
Okay, Payal, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. On that note, we have to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with lots more.
And you know, speaking perhaps his heart out when it comes to relations with Canada. Because what Canada has been doing or perhaps has been involved in is something shocking. And also the way they are protecting or perhaps endorsing the separatist group is also against the integrity and security of India. And that has been retweeted by External Affairs Minister. Now look, Justin Trudeau's government is in minority. He doesn't have enough number to be in power. So he has done a coalition with NDP. Now NDP is being headed by Jalmeet Singh, who is a Khalistani sympathizer, separatist sympathizer. And because of this coalition politics compulsion, Justin Trudeau and his government is unable to take strict or perhaps strong action against these groups, even if they are violating laws, even if they are perhaps protesting in a violent manner outside Indian Foreign Office. Indian High Commissioner's dinner had to be cancelled in the month of March because of the protests of the Khalistanis. In fact, they had beaten up some Indians badly outside the venue, and that venue was booked by Indian community. So, you know, case after case, incident after incident, there has been no response from the authorities in Canada, perhaps with regard to arresting these perpetrators or putting them behind the bars or taking action against them so that their morale breaks down. Nothing has been done. Last time around, when former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's tableau, that particular killing movement tableau was depicted in one of the Khalistani rallies, at that point in time, there was a condemnation which only came from Canadian High Commissioner to India's office. None of the senior ministers there in Canada had condemned it. Nobody from the government spoke about it. Only the High Commissioner to India had tweeted or perhaps said that we condemn it, it should not be allowed on the Canadian soil. So it clearly establishes the state's policy. It clearly establishes that the separatist group, those who talk about breaking India, those who talk about, those who conspire against India, are hand in gloves with the government of Canada. And that is only because of the vote bank politics, because Mr. Trudeau knows that he cannot run his government without the support of NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. He cannot run the government because of the support of these radical elements, those who vote him to power. And this is the reason that Canada has given them a free hand to do whatever they want to do. And in fact, I'm talking about the element, those who protest against India. There are a lot of elements, those who do violent activities in India, or perhaps have been involved in criminal activities in India, are also sitting comfortably in Canada and perhaps threatening people back in India and getting people killed or executing the killings. So a lot is happening when it comes to Canada, and this is a reason that a second time in a month, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has spoken so openly against the Canada, and he also said that the relations between the two countries have taken a hit because of perhaps the requirement of the vote bank politics, which Canadian government believes in.
Abhishek, since External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar mentioned that security and integrity that we are ensuring to safeguard, now what steps are supposed to be taken from India's side, to sort of make sure that these relationships are being maintained, at the same time the major concern is being sorted out?
See, as the Western Affairs Jaishankar has clearly mentioned that the bilateral ties have been impacted and affected in the last few years because of this Khalistani movement. But since there is a very broad presence of Indian diaspora in Canada that doesn't only belong to, the Sikh community or the communities that kind of are sympathetic towards this Khalistani separatism. So clearly there is a linkages that India and Canada both like to maintain. There's a higher number of students who go to Canada for studies. We have seen recently some controversy around that also. But apart from that, there are certain, defense deals also. Canada is a very natural resource-rich country, so Indian investment is also eyeing in that country. So there is a very good potential between the two sides, but and both the sides have tried to escalate the bilateral relationship in terms of volume also. But in the recent years, especially in the last 5-6 years, we have seen increasing events that surrounding this Sikh separatism, and that happening that event is not that big an issue. The kind of actions that Canadian government has taken, that is concerning. They are very lax, and many times it seems that because of the vote bank politics, the Canadian government is not very keen on going after these separatist elements, and one after another, these separatist elements have tried to target Indian communities, the establishments. Indian temples have been defaced in the past. So unless until that is sorted, how can Indian government have a very good and healthy bilateral ties that encompasses in other areas of trade and strategic ties? This is something that External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has highlighted yesterday, and Canadian government needs to take some concrete action that is seen. Every time just defending that we are letting them have a democratic space, that would not solve the problem of Khalistani issue in Canada. This is what India has maintained.
I have Major General A.K. Sivach, who is a defense expert, joining me on the phone line. Sir, a very good morning to you. As I asked my colleague as well, sir, what do you think, what diplomatic efforts should be at the place to, sort of maintain a mutual understanding between these two nations?
The point is, as far as Canada is concerned, they must realize that if they want to have a good relation with India, then they cannot allow Khalistan activities to take place in Canada. Because today, Canada has become a hub center of a number of Khalistan activities and anti-India sentiments being shown there. So India is very clear. That's what Dr. S. Jaishankar has told in no uncertain terms. In case you want a free trade agreement, you want to do a business with India, you can't allow anti-Indian sentiments to be risen there and our temples vandalized or...
Welcome back. Thanks a lot for staying with us. Some news coming in from West Bengal, where the CBI seems to have unearthed another scam. So there could be more trouble as far as the Mamata Banerjee government is concerned. After the education scam which led to the arrest of Partha Chatterjee, CBI sources now indicating to us here at CNN News 18 that there could be another scam happening, and this is as far as a municipality recruitment scam is concerned, where CBI sources once again telling us here at CNN News 18 that they believe that a lot of crucial documents are missing on the ground. Investigation is currently on. The TMC has also now responded saying this is nothing but false allegations and vendetta politics. Before we bring in our colleague, let's take a look at some reactions.
It is nothing but a false allegation being given out of political vendetta. Trinamool Congress believes in zero tolerance to corruption, and these investigating agencies, they are being used as political tools by BJP when they are failing in fighting politically, when they are losing their political ground every now and then. They are more depending on these investigating agencies, and by using these agencies they are simply trying to malign our Trinamool Congress government. That's why they are doing this type of false allegation they are making.
मूली की तरह सारे के सारे डॉक्यूमेंट जला दिया गया. जितना सारे म्युनिसिपल एरिया में आप जाओगे, लोकल तृणमूल वर्कर्स दे आर सेइंग दैट वी हैव बीन डिप्राइव्ड. बाहर से लोगों को लाया गया. हम सॉल्ट लेक का एक स्कूल से एक दिन में 258 सर्टिफिकेट इशू कर किया. एक म्युनिसिपैलिटी में 292 jobs have been sold out. Out of them 29 जिसका कोई पेपर भी नहीं है. उस म्युनिसिपैलिटी में भी टीम गया हुआ था, उसको कुछ नहीं मिला. ये इंफॉर्मेशन तो म्युनिसिपैलिटी का जितने एम्प्लॉयज है वो बोल रहे हैं खुलेआम. और आज ये आरोप से भाजपा नहीं लगा रहा है, दूसरा किसी विपक्ष पार्टी नहीं लगा रहा है. जो तृणमूल कांग्रेस का वर्कर्स है वही बोल रहे हैं.
Let's also now bring in our colleague Kamalika Sengupta, who's joining us on the broadcast. Kamalika, this could be more trouble as far as the Mamata Banerjee government is concerned. What are sources within the CBI telling you? What could be the magnitude of this scam?
Well, this municipality scam is also as big as the education scam. That's what we are getting it from our sources in agency. Because it is not only 14 municipalities which is there, which has been raided. There can be raids in more other municipalities too. Because this person, this Oyanshil, actually what happened? It all happened that when the education scam investigation was taking place, then through the investigation, one person was arrested by the ED who was working as a middleman, whose name is Oyanshil. Now when his house was raided, then it was seen that he was running a company which used to do the government recruitment. Because working as an agency to the government, various offices in government recruitment is concerned.
Okay.
It's to prepare OMR sheets and other things, other nitty-gritties of this recruitment. Now through this office, that's what the sources in the agencies are saying, that two scams took place. It's not only the education scam, it is also that the recruitment which took place in the municipalities, there also same type of corruption and same type of money-taking business took place.
Okay.
That means one job equivalent.
So this could be as big as far as the education scam is concerned. The TMC just saying this is vendetta politics. Kamalika, unfortunately, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Moving on, as far as the origins of the COVID-19 outbreak or pandemic is concerned, one of the theories that has been floated time and again is that this virus, in fact, was created in a lab in China. Now, for the first time, a whistleblower has also come out and reiterated exactly these claims. He, in fact, has spoken to one of the researchers at a Wuhan lab has gone on to claim that he and his colleagues were asked to test as many as 4 strains as far as the COVID-19 pandemic were concerned and to check their severity on human beings. That researcher then spoke to a whistleblower who's finally now broken his silence with Jennifer Wang. I spoke to Jennifer Wang earlier in the day. Let's take a look. In fact, have interviewed the researcher, but your whistleblower has. So I want to first begin by helping our viewers understand who is Shan Chao and what are the big revelations that he's made as far as the origins of the COVID-19 outbreak is concerned.
San Chao is a researcher of Wuhan Institute of Virology, and he was actually recently promoted to the vice director of the P4 lab of Wuhan Institute of Virology. So he spoke to my interviewee back in March and from March to April in 2020 and made some very shocking revelations. The most shocking one, of course, was that he directly involved in testing and screening from 4 coronavirus, which were given to him by his supervisor back in February 2019, and for him to test and to select one that can infect as many species as possible, which means he need to compare which one is the most infectious, and then he selected one. So he finished his test in May or June of 2019. So that was the most, of course, shocking revelation he made to my interviewee, and he is explicitly used the word bioweapon, and he believed that what he was doing was to create bioweapon. So that's the most shocking piece of a revelation he made or claim he made to my interviewee. It's already completed. So his task was just to select the one that is best. But he, of course, said this is engineered, artificially engineered.
How were he and his colleagues made to test this strain, and where all were they sent?
I did ask my interviewee, did you notice any increase of infections in Xinjiang area? And he said yes, because in the spring, there were only 2 provinces in China which has very little cases, which is in Xinjiang and Xizang, because they are very less populated area. But in the summer, the cases in Xinjiang suddenly jumped.
You're saying that all of this conversation happened in 2020?
Yes, he said that in April 2020, San Chao sent messages to my interviewee. He said he was already on the plane, and the plane was going to fly to Xinjiang, and he was sent to Xinjiang to do health checks to the Uyghurs who were detained in the re-education camp. So that the surface messages he sent to my interviewee.
Shifting our focus then, before we wrap this edition of Nation at 5, the US Coast Guard has found what they claim could be human remains as far as the Titan sub is concerned. Remember, this had 5 people on board. Let's take a look at this report. It's a wrap from my side. Thanks a lot for watching.
A Canadian-flagged ship brought ashore debris from the Titan submersible on Wednesday that imploded while on a voyage to the century-old wreck of the Titanic earlier this month, killing all 5 people on board. Shattered fragments were pulled up by a crane off the Horizon Arctic vessel and onto a truck at the St. John's Harbour in Newfoundland. The debris is expected to shed more light on the cause of the catastrophic implosion that killed everyone on board. OceanGate Expedition CEO Stockton Rush, British billionaire Hamish Harding, Pakistani-born business leader Shehzad Dawood, and his 19-year-old son Suleiman. And, beyond that, French oceanographer Paul-Henri Nargeolet. It was not immediately clear where the debris was headed. Canadian and United States authorities have in the past week announced investigations into the incident, which has raised questions about the unregulated nature of such expeditions. The deep-sea submersible operated by OceanGate Expeditions was discovered in pieces on the seabed, some 488 meters away from the bow of the Titanic, by a robotic diving vehicle last week, ending a multinational 5-day search for survivors.
evening. You're watching Viewpoint here on CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. It's been 37 days since the Siddaramaiah government took oath in Karnataka, and as promised before elections in the first cabinet meeting, the government decided to implement the 5 guarantees that they made in their manifesto. But is signing on the dotted line enough? The proof of the pudding isn't eating it, but unfortunately for the beneficiaries of those schemes in Karnataka, that road is a long one. If one's to judge the Karnataka government and the guarantees and the promises that they made in their manifesto, not many will be impressed as far as the execution of those promises is going. One front after another, the state government seems to be faltering in either implementing these guarantees to begin with or following through on its implementation in a smooth manner. The path which served to be the expressway for the Congress party towards its victory in the states now seems to be riddled with speed breakers, or if I may pun in the context of Bengaluru, riddled with potholes. So what seems to be the trouble? Are these just teething issues, or is this whole plan an ill-conceived one? Add to that the cost to the exchequer. The Chief Minister himself not too long ago estimated the cost of the implementation of these promises to be close to 60,000 crore rupees for just 1 year. Where is that money coming from and at what cost? Before we get into that debate, let me break down for you the hurdles with these 5 guarantees that were announced by the state government. Let's first begin with the Gruha Jyoti scheme. That ensured that there were 200 units of free monthly power to every single family. They could apply for it. Now, the problem with that is that even though you're eligible for that 200 rupee free units, now you will be paying more for the rest of it because power bills have been hiked by 60 to 80%. Coming up next with the other scheme, which is the Gruha Lakshmi one. As far as that scheme went, beneficiaries, which is the woman head of every family, was to be given 2,000 rupees per month. The problem that this particular scheme faces is that there is really no clarity. There is no provision for new female heads. If there are multiple of them, who does the money go to? Shifting focus to the rice scheme, the Anna Bhagya scheme. Remember, in their manifesto, the Congress party promised 10 kilograms of free rice to below poverty line families. There were massive hurdles with that. They couldn't procure the amount of rice that was actually needed to implement this particular scheme. There was shortage, which is why they've now decided to, instead of giving those 10 kilograms of rice, give these people money. The Yuva Nidhi scheme, over 1,000 rupees was to be given to unemployed diploma holders. The problem with this particular scheme is that the scheme comes with certain conditions, ones that was not prior intimated. The fact that it is only applicable to Kannadigas, to domicile members of the state. Next, and perhaps the one that affects every single citizen of the state, or at least those who use public transport regularly. This is the Shakti scheme. Under this scheme, it was meant to empower women, to increase the participation of women in workforce. But the problem with ensuring free rides for women is that clearly there wasn't enough provision made for extra buses. There's extreme overcrowding that we are seeing. There are certain reports of accidents coming to the fore as well. The KSRTC, of course, has come out and denied those claims. But those reports are taking place. Whether it's a smear campaign or whether it's an ill-conceived plan, that's up for debate. Now, there was a timeline that was set by the Karnataka government as to when these schemes were to be implemented, in what way, in what manner, in how many months it was going to come out to. Now, the registration for the Congress-led Karnataka government's Gruha Jyoti scheme, which provides free electricity of up to 200 units, that registration opened up from the 18th of June. So far, over 51 lakh people have already registered for the scheme. But there has been a hike in electricity bills otherwise. That has now ensured that there is some heat on the state government. Because at least as far as trader bodies go, they are now up in arms against the kind of increase in their tariff goes. They also called for a ban not too long ago. Moving on to the Gruha Lakshmi scheme. It's to be implemented from the 1st of July, which is in about 2 days from now. But there is no clarity as to who exactly the beneficiary in that family is going to be. Now, the Congress promised an additional 5 kilograms of rice per month in the election manifesto. That was the Anna Bhagya scheme, like I just pointed out. That too was supposed to be implemented from the 1st of July. But it hit a hurdle because the Karnataka government faced difficulty in procuring this additional rice. The FCI and the Karnataka government were at loggerheads. The rice is not coming in, which is why the state government has now decided that they are going to be providing money instead. They are going to be giving cash at the rate of 34 rupees per kilogram to these beneficiaries. Shifting focus now to the 5th guarantee that the Congress made, the Yuva Nidhi scheme. It is a guarantee to the state's educated unemployed youth that they would get monthly cash by the state government. This was to aid not just their welfare but also of their families. That came with terms and conditions. Those terms and conditions, the fine print, was not something that was announced previously. It would only be open to the domiciles of Karnataka, only to Kannadigas. That was what was later then announced by the state government. The Shakti scheme, through which women can travel for free in non-premium services of state-run buses across the state. That has led to overcrowding. We've seen several of those videos that have now gone viral. Allegedly, there have been accidents that have taken place as well, unfortunately, due to which there have been injuries. So what exactly happened in the last 37 days and prior to the elections in the run-up when these promises were made? Did the Congress government underestimate how mammoth this task was going to be? Did they bite off more than they could chew? That's the big debate tonight.
Even as women passengers in Karnataka are enjoying free bus rides as part of Congress government's ambitious scheme, the Shakti scheme, the state-run transport corporations are struggling to keep pace and demand as overcrowded buses has become a major cause for concern. Well, I am right now in Majestic, which is a popular bus stop in the Bengaluru, and here you can see in the BMTC bus how people are all very standing with no space and are really struggling as well to find space for themselves.
Out of 25,000 villages, except 300 villages, we have transportation. Every day, 156 trips will be there. Maybe 1 or 2, that's all.
1 crore 10 lakh people are traveling every day in the same number of routes. In fact, it is on record says that there are only 19,300 buses are flying every day, and some people are even trying to say because KSRTC, BMTC, NW and any KSRTC do not have sufficient funds, they may stop another 2,000 to 3,000 buses quite shortly. Meaning to say that number of travelers has increased, number of routes and buses has reduced.
Joining me on this broadcast, spokesperson of the Karnataka BJP, Vijay Prasad, Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, spokesperson of the Karnataka Congress is with me. Brinda Adige, an activist and a citizen of Bengaluru is with me as well, and senior journalist B.S. Arun joins me on this broadcast. But let me begin by asking Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, would you, the Congress, agree that this could have been managed better?
You know, a policy of such a stature, which involves 7 crore peoples, opening it up to half the population for free, yes, we have implemented a historic policy. There have been incidences that you're saying, but it was blown out of proportion by the opposition party by making fake videos, and it is all over the news. And whatever you are saying, yes, with the policy, it's always progressive, right? If there are any changes needed, we will definitely bring about the changes that are needed. But we need to look at the main intention of this policy, that is to empower women, to increase their workforce participation. And if you see even the economic development because of that, most of the places, the revenues have been increased, most of the temples and tourist places, the revenue has been increased. Economy-wise, and even the number of people, people traveling, it's only been a huge success, the Shakti scheme.
Sure.
But then, okay, if there are any such things where we can correct and where we can make some modifications to the policy, and if needed be, if the buses need to be added, because Bangalore, whether it is Bengaluru or Karnataka, we have a very good public transport system which was underused before this scheme.
Sure.
Now they are using it well, and as they already know, the public transport PSU was under loss. Now, definitely, if the government is compensating for all the women who are traveling,
sure,
of course that will also not run under the loss. They will be profitable. So we need to look at the bigger picture. And these videos that have been circulated online, made viral through the BJP IT cell, I agree. If there is any such thing, there might be one or two cases like this. That doesn't mean we can disregard the whole importance of such.
No one is trying to disregard the intent behind these promises that were made and the implementation. All I asked you was that could this have been managed better? Could the execution have managed better? And I'll tell you why I'm asking you this. Because as far as this particular scheme is concerned, I'll tell you why I'm asking you this. As far as the Shakti scheme is concerned, there has been at least a 23% increase in the number of commuters as far as these buses go. But the fleet size remains the same. How could the government, how could the Congress party not have anticipated this before they made the decision, before they decided to implement it?
So the 23% increase in what is that you mentioned? Please, can you please repeat that?
This is as far as commuters go. There has been a 23% increase as far as commuters go, irrespective of the gender. But this is after the implementation of the scheme.
There are two things. Yes, the commuters have increased. There are two things. It's mostly during the weekends where they want to go to some tourist places. They're not the regular travelers. When it comes to the regular travelers, I don't think there is much difference in that. Mostly during weekends and sometimes even during weekdays. And this is the beginning of the policy, and I'm sure everybody is excited to go to some tourist places. I don't think this 23% you are speaking about is permanent. And it's not going to remain the same or uniform for a long time. The policy has been implemented only some 20 days ago. And that's the reason many footsteps or how we count it, head counts have been increased. I don't think this will remain constant for us to make any permanent changes to that. You know, people are excited, women are excited in groups, in their friends group. They're going, visiting places, you know, which they had not explored.
So these are the teething troubles. This overcrowding is not going to stay, Vijay Prasad. And if it does stay, then the Congress says we'll course correct.
See, couple of things have come out on this things. See, Siddaramaia's government has become a classic example of ill-planned, ill-conceived government, ill-conceived ideas, wherein they are unable to implement whatever the promises they have made. If you see all the promises that they are trying to implement here, be it Gruh Jyoti scheme or be it Annabhagya scheme, each and every step they are trying to, they are stumbling upon. And Gruh Jyoti scheme came out with a lot of conditions. Initially, they said if they take out their page 10 of their manifesto, they said 200 units free. Later on, when they started implementing, they started saying 10 months average. Okay, you cannot use up to 200 units. The person using 100 units, they will take 10% buffer, 110, not more than that. So why did they have to say 200 units?